17-year-old Connor McLean is one of the bright young stars for USA Gymnastics. She has already competed at the World Championships, and her road to the next Olympics in Paris begins today in the suburbs of Dallas. NBC Sports welcomes you to the 2022 USA Gymnastics Winter Cup, presented by Ozone. The Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, Texas, headquarters of the Dallas Cowboys, but today the host of the first significant elite gymnastics competition of the new year. I'm Steve Schlanger with the Olympic gold medalist Tim Daggett and Nastia Liukin, and we are set to roll with Ashley Sullivan, the 16-year-old who trains right here in Texas, her first year at the senior level after competing here at the Winter Cup as a junior back in 2021.
Says her favorite event is right here, floor exercise, and you'll see why right off the top. Big tumbling.
Well, and that was a great way to start her competition here. She was injured all year. So being able to come back out here as a senior athlete now, great start for Ashley there.
She was second on the vault in the junior competition here at this Winter Cup last year, was just outside the top 5 on the uneven bars, and then she had that injury that you referenced. Nastia kept her out the remainder of the year, and now coming back for her first season at the senior level.
And you know, just such a great experience too for these athletes to be able to be out here on the podium anytime you can compete in huge tumbling pass. Look at this opening tumbling pass. 2 flips in the air and a full twist, completely stretched body position. Big step on the landing, but that is so difficult.
Very, very powerful. Looks a little bit tired at the end here. Nice double pike, great height, but just kind of stumbles a little bit on that landing. Hey, full disclosure, who's coaching this young lady, Nastia?
Never heard of these coaches. Both my mom and my dad, actually.
And there she is. What are they like as coaches out there in a competition like this?
You know, my mom hasn't coached or didn't coach me. She was my first coach when I was about 5 years old, so I couldn't tell you what she's like. But no, she definitely adds a lot to my dad, I think, as well. They complement each other very well. Your mom, world champion in rhythmic gymnastics, and your dad, of course, world and Olympic champion, has a lot of medals. A lot of medals in that family.
And what are they like when they wait for the scores? I would imagine they had to do it during your time, and now as a coach, probably never gets easier.
Yeah, I mean, my mom was always so nervous she couldn't even be in the arena to watch me, and here she is now on the competition floor with some of her athletes, so sure it's pretty nerve-wracking for them both.
You know, I talked with Ashley before the meet began, and she told me that her biggest challenge, uneven bars, but really when you come right down to it, is calming myself down. That is a very big goal for her.
Well, Sky Blakely just turned 17 years of age a few weeks ago, and she is from right here in Frisco, Texas, the site of the Ford Center here and this Winter Cup competition.
a really nice start for Sky Blakely here on floor exercise. You know, she was in the mix for the Tokyo Olympic Games. Unfortunately, in one of the qualifying competitions, had a bit of a stumble on her run for her vault and put her arm down and damaged her elbow significantly. 2 weeks later, had to have surgery on it to repair it. Evgeny Marchenko right there, another coach at WOGA.
Yeah, he actually coached one of his athletes, Carly Patterson, to win the Olympic all-around gold medal in 2004.
Double layout somersault, beautiful position in the air, great height. Just a small little slide back on the landing, but excellent.
But was able to stay in bounds there, which was so smart to not take that additional step. Here's that last tumbling pass. Good height in the air, shoulders up. Double backflip right there. Just a hop back as well. But this is, you know, we talked about this pretty much all week here. It's pretty early in the season for these athletes, so the endurance can, you know, sometimes not be as high, but showed really no signs of that here on this floor routine.
And what's the emotion like for these athletes? As you mentioned, it is early in the season. Is this about nerves, anxiety, anticipation? What are they feeling?
You know, I think really just to be able to get the first competition, first major competition of the year under their belts. And once again, for these athletes, for Sky, for Ashley, for Connor, who we'll see, this is right here in their backyard. They train just a few miles away, so I know they have friends, family here supporting them.
But it's a very compressed road to Paris at this point in time, only 2.5 years away. You know, it's typically 4 years between each quad, between each Olympiad, I should say.
For Sky Blakely, her score 13.250. And we remain on the floor for the next competitor, Sienna Alipio from Maplewood, Minnesota. Last year, she was just outside the top 5 in the all-around at this event here, the Winter Cup.
Short on that, I believe both hands went down.
Yeah, just didn't quite have the power, the energy, the endurance, as I was mentioning before.
All right, so we'll get the score for Sienna Alipio in just a moment as we are just underway with the Winter Cup on this final weekend in February from Frisco. Ford Center, world corporate headquarters of the Dallas Cowboys. But this weekend, giving way to the top gymnasts from around the country, Sienna Alipio just a moment ago on the floor with a score that comes in just south of the 12 mark. That red triangle means it's a score that she would like to have back. Not exactly the score she was hoping for. You'll see a green triangle if it's a good score throughout the meet here today.
talking with a bunch of coaches on the floor. After every Olympic Games, the FIG, the governing body of sport, goes back and makes the rules more challenging, more difficult. They said that to get an 8 in an execution is just a huge accomplishment. Nasty and I have talked about this. We don't agree with it. I think it's crazy. The best in the world should be approaching a 10 in execution, and they just keep pushing that bar further and further away.
Yeah, you know, it's, to be completely honest, a little frustrating, I think, for all sides of the competition floor, both the coaches, the athletes, and the fans, to really understand what's a good score.
Yeah, the optics can be different than the scores that you see, and that can be frustrating. It can be confusing. This is MJ Frazier, the New Jersey native, who is next up on the beam. She was 6th on the balance beam going back to the U.S. Championships 3 years ago, but it was at the end of that season that she tore multiple ligaments in her knee, ACL, MCL, PCL, and it's been a long road back for Frazier to return to 100%.
So once again, we're waiting for another score. And it's very complicated, you know, like we've been talking about already. You know, it's not a simple system for evaluating these routines, and they keep adding. It's not just you do one element. You might think that there's just one type of deduction you can get, but there are numerous on every single skill that they do. So it takes longer like this. It's more complicated. There are more mistakes, and nobody's happy. You know, the coaches aren't happy, the athletes, the parents, the fans. It's infuriating. I know I competed in a different time, and, you know, the time of a 10.0, and I'll tell you, there were many routines that probably shouldn't have been a 10, certainly, but it was a little bit more exciting back then.
Why do it, Tim? Why not leave well enough alone?
Yeah, look at waiting for head judge to finalize score. Just crazy. I don't know why they're doing this. I really don't. I've yet to talk to anybody that thought that, you know, when they see a pretty much gorgeous, state-of-the-art routine and it comes in as an 8.6 in execution, it's just befuddling. But now, after this code, it doesn't come in 8.6, it comes in at a 7.8 out of 10.
Beautiful opening combo right there. She's really gained a lot of experience in the last few years. Gorgeous ring leap. It's a lot harder than it looks, losing complete sight of the balance beam.
These leaps are a little harder too when you start sideways on the beam. Ooh, held on to that. Her older sister, Margetta, paved the way for her. MJ says she went through it first, learned all the different little tricks along the way, helped me out tremendously. Dismount.
Little pike. Wow,
oh.
There you go.
Very nice.
She had a long wait because of the delay in the scoring to get up on the beam. How much does that affect the athletes?
Oh, it absolutely affects the mentality. You know, you're already so nervous waiting for the judges to be ready, and then also, not to mention, starting on the balance beam. That was already adds a lot of nerves.
That was a great start for her.
Yeah, really good. Right from the beginning of her routine, she really didn't show any signs of nerves. Here's that front aerial, and immediately you see her right foot actually a little bit off, but straightens herself out as she jumps into the 2-leap combo. And here's that front flip. Gorgeous.
Very solid, and an exclamation mark at the end. Gymnastics 101, fly high and stick the landing, baby.
Wow, and before the first hour is over, we already got it.
Well,
You got to get the signature line in early, right?
There
Set the
you go.
tone for the whole season.
Absolutely. Well, she deserved it. That's for sure. I don't know if she'll appreciate it, but she deserved it.
Her sister, a senior at UCLA. She's going, though, to Pac-12 rival Cal next fall. So the sisters will have quite the rivalry in collegiate gymnastics beginning next year.
Yeah, I was surprised when I heard that she was going to go to Cal. Nothing against Cal, but I thought for sure she would want to make her way out and to Tinseltown, as her sister did.
A true sibling rivalry.
I know.
Yeah, the scoring and the judging right now is just a little bit slow all around, really, looking at all of the events.
Well, this is Connor McClain, who comes from Las Vegas, but now trains in Texas, coming off a very tumultuous 2021 and trying to right the ship here in this new season.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that she isn't quite back to her full competitive shape. She wasn't planning to do her full difficulty both on floor and bars.
That's what we want. That's what we want. Great.
Valeri right there. That's what we want. Great. And it was fantastic. The start, huge tumbling, full twisting double layout, then another double layout. Really, really good stuff.
And as we mentioned, you know, this really is early on in the season. So again, for Connor, this isn't about winning the competition here. It's about getting back out, trying out some new skills.
Yeah, she looks great and really powerful. Full twisting, double layout. When you keep your body extended, no bend in the hips, no bend in the knees, it is much harder to rotate around. Very well done.
Yeah, and very difficult. And something about Connor that I love, and you see just an easy layout there. And again, it's really just about getting back out there on the competition floor, as I've mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Being able to be on the podium and everything, and you know, she's had just such a difficult year, and you see on the back of her leotard here, the patch MM, that is in honor of her father that passed away from COVID earlier in December, actually, and it's been honoring him here. And
it was such a difficult year overall, and that really was the final straw for Connor McClain. She had had some setbacks in training, some injuries, roller coaster results. She changed gyms. So many things were in flux in her life. And then her father passing away at the end of last year. Her grandmother also passed away. So she's trying to really reset here for 2022.
yeah, and her father actually gave her that patch, so special to have that on the back of her leotard.
You don't have it? It's separate? Is it yours? Really good. Just good stuff.
At one point as a junior, she was really considered one of the next big things, wasn't she?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. You know, 2020 was a little bit of a rush for her, but she has great abilities.
Yeah, you know, it was so interesting because when the Olympics got postponed, she was one of the athletes that then found herself age eligible to try to make that Olympic team. Didn't make the Olympic team, but being able to compete during that season certainly gave her some experience as well there.
So MJ Frazier on the balance beam with a score of 13.7. What do you make of that?
Well, that 8.2 execution, that is, as I said, a gigantic number nowadays in the sport of gymnastics.
This is Kaylin Morgan from North Carolina, set to graduate high school in just a few months and then headed off to the University of Michigan.
So in the past, this is another rule change. We would typically see somebody that does that turn squatted down with one leg out in front. They would oftentimes do either a double and then do a triple. Not allowed to do that anymore, which was that was a good change. I think you'd agree, Nastya.
I can't say how many times I've probably said that, but just not my favorite skill. Slight balance check there, but great combination. So on a combination like that, two skills in a row, you really have to be very fluid throughout, or else the judges will not award it as a connection.
She says, gymnastics has always been my peace, my love, my purpose. I'm grateful for how far I've come, and I look forward to my gymnastics journey ahead.
So once again, we see a little bit less difficulty, and not exactly sure. I think that was probably planned as well, just because it is early in the season. Some of these athletes also had a really tough time getting here to Frisco, canceled flights, delays because of the weather here in the Dallas area.
But putting it out here, you know, this group of athletes that are on the floor right now, this is such a rebuilding phase for Team USA. I mean, there were 15, 20 super top athletes that could walk out on any floor, Olympics, Worlds, and be unbelievably successful. They're all either retired or they're in college competing now. And here is that dismount you're talking about. That doesn't cut it nowadays, though, but it's probably what she was supposed to do.
All right, that'll take us to the end of the first rotation here. 3 more to go from the Winter Cup in Frisco, Texas. We come back to the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, just outside of Dallas, Texas. The Winter Cup on this final weekend in February, where it's been frigid here over the last few days with an ice storm in the area. And Cameron Richardson here taking the lead after the first rotation. But the likes of MJ Frazier right in the mix, tied for second here, and several athletes have a shot with 3 rotations left to go, and more to come from the Winter Cup after this. And some of the top talent from the recent Olympics for USA Gymnastics moving on to other things, including Michaela Skinner, a silver medalist who's now training for American Ninja Warrior.
Crazy. And she's going to do the couples part with her husband.
And here's Grace, of course, at the University of Utah, and just clearly having the time of her life, and not just having fun, but doing so well.
Suni Lee, of course, Olympic all-around champion with another champion right there, Sir Charles Barkley. Auburn has never been the same since she walked on campus, just gigantic crowds.
And Jade Carey, see, with that perfect 10.0.
And another 10.
Jordan Childs at UCLA. It's good to get a 10.
And he put a ring on it.
He absolutely did. Shout out to Simone there. Heard she's watching. Congratulations to you both.
And Michaela Skinner is here at the Ford Center this weekend, the silver medalist on the vault from Tokyo. We'll talk to her a little later on in the show. Meanwhile, Sky Blakely, who's in 7th after the first rotation, is next up here as we move into rotation number 2.
She
on the vault.
She said, I just want to get back out there and have some fun. Oh, boy. Wow, she dealt with that well, huh?
It was a good recovery. Really kind of just from the board, went straight back into the table. Her arms extremely bent, which a lot of athletes wouldn't have been able to complete a double twist after.
Yeah, they wouldn't have.
That, yeah.
Really low.
So take a look right on the table. So right here, you see her elbows and really off to the side. So take a look at where she lands.
And that's both feet over the line, so 0.3 of a point deduction. So you can't get a good rebound when that happens. And she's so low onto the table, not only do her elbows bend, but her hands slide. So it's more of a jump as opposed to a rebound.
She's had to deal with several injuries the last few years. So now 2 events in the bank for her. When you consider this early portion of the season, what's the most difficult event to feel like you have command of when you're this early in a campaign?
Well, you know, I think, once again, for every athlete, it's pretty different. For something like vault, you don't have to have a lot of endurance. For me, that was probably the hardest event to be able to feel my best. But the uneven bars and floor exercise, those are the 2 events that you really have to have endurance. They take the longest to get, I would say, competition ready. So just you see the penalties, only 1/10 was taken.
And one other note, vaulting, all of the vaults were devalued on the women's side. Basically, every vault that you see is starting 0.4 of a point lower than it did in Tokyo.
A little bit of a blind landing, what we call. So she landed with her back to the table. It makes it a lot trickier to spot the ground, to stick the landing.
A little bit easier of a vault. Every time you add a half turn, it's 0.4 higher. Or we saw a double fold from Sky Blakely, 2 turns. And now we just saw 1.5. So this one will start 0.4 lower.
But great stretch body position on the table and off of the table. That very last quarter turn was almost just a little late, but got it all the way around.
All right, so Sienna Alipio, the native of Northern California, will get her score when we come back to the Winter Cup here at the Ford Center in Frisco. Sienna Alipio just a few moments ago with a vault that produced a score of 13.2 with the deductions.
So you see that difficulty score of 4.6. In Tokyo, that vault was worth a 5.0.
Yeah, it really makes no sense why, you know, every single Olympic cycle, everything just continues to get more and more challenging and more difficult.
Yeah.
Now Connor McLean is coming up next on the vault. She was the bronze medalist on this event at this Winter Cup a year ago. Also a silver medalist on the vault going back to the U.S. Junior National Championships a few years ago.
She actually drew and designed these ozone leotards for her and her Woga teammates herself, something she likes to do in her spare time.
I didn't think gymnasts had spare time.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not so much spare time,
Right.
but on the weekends,
Yeah.
after training, to decompress.
I asked her, you know, what's different for you right now? And she said, well, I used to be a people pleaser. That was very important to me. And now I'm doing what I'm doing for myself.
And that's so critical to long-term success too, isn't it?
Absolutely. So she'll do the Same vault that we saw Sky Blakely do. It's called a Yurchenko, named after the great Soviet gymnast. She'll do it in a laid out position and add 2 full twists on it. So has a maximum starting score of 15.0.
And beautiful form in the air, just blocked right off of the table so high.
Yeah, that was great. Really powerful. Has always really been like that, but nice technique. Look at her arms. She just slams them back to that table. And you see right there, no bend, no absorption on the table, just a bounce.
And that's exactly why she was able to get so much higher in the air. So take a look from this angle. Look how stretched back, beautiful shoulder extension off of the table.
Wow, that was gorgeous.
Easily could have done
a 2.5, right? Yeah.
She was very pleased with it.
Thank you.
Good to get a solid one under your belt. Sense of relief. 14.1 for Connor McClain.
And look at that execution score, 9.1 out of a 10.0. And we're not going to see too many 9s across the board. So that was great.
MJ Frazier now tied for first here as we proceed through this second rotation. The New Jersey native who made her World Championships debut last year in Japan. She's over on the floor.
Wow, that was jam-packed, huh, Nastia?
Yeah, that was good fight on one of those tumbling passes. But really great start so far for her 2 events down.
Yeah, she looks completely comfortable and was comfortable on this mount. A lot going on. First one we've seen here today, a double twisting, double somersault, 2 flips, 2 twists, 1 piece of air.
So even more going on in this tumbling pass. So a front full to a double back, and had to really pull hard to get that around. Just a little bit low on the landing.
That was someone who appeared to be in total command on the floor. MJ Frazier, her score on the way as we roll along here from the Winter Cup. MJ Frazier very much in the running for the title here at the Winter Cup, and through 2 rotations, looking good after her floor exercise where she scored a 13.5. She remains near the top of the standings.
And that 13.5 might not look that high, but it's the highest we've seen today on floor.
And Ashley Sullivan, a 16-year-old, just a moment ago with her vault.
Same double twisting. Yurchenko.
And that was great. A lot of power off of the table. Great control on the landing there. 8.9 execution. So once again, that's a great score for Ashley.
Yes.
She was second in the vault last year at this event in the junior division, but stepping up to the senior level for the first time here this year. 13.9 is the total score for her.
I'm very impressed with her gymnastics, and you know, she told me she gets nervous, but looks like she's dealing with it very well now.
And Zoe Miller coming up on bars. Our first look at the uneven bars here today, where last year she was 5th at this event. Also 8th in the all-around at the 2021 Winter Cup. Training just north of Houston, about 3.5 hours south of where we are today.
Where the great Simone Biles is from. And I asked her yesterday, I said, so what's it like in the gym now with no Simone Biles? And she said, well, it's pretty different. You know, we used to all look up to Simone. We knew she had it. And now we're the top dogs, and that brings more pressure.
Well, let me ask you this to both of you. Have we seen the last of Simone? I don't think she said or made a definitive statement either way to this point, has she?
She hasn't, and I think, you know, she's just kind of taking it one day at a time. She certainly hasn't ruled anything out yet, and she might not even know herself.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of living in the moment, rightfully so.
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but she's got a lot of things going on in her life. Got to plan a wedding,
planning a
right?
wedding, absolutely.
Yeah.
She said she wasn't going to be a bridezilla, so we'll see about that, Simone.
Well, still 2.5 years until the next Olympics in Paris 2024, but again recalibrated because of the postponement with the pandemic. They don't have the full run-up that they typically would, so a somewhat abbreviated schedule, but still in the early going when you consider the runway that they have towards 2024.
I'll tell you what, the scoring, this is just killing me. It's hurting my soul because it's such a wonderful sport, and this is not the way a sport should be played, evaluated, enjoyed. And it's, you know what, it's not their fault though. It's not the judges on the floor. It's not their fault. It's that the rules are so complicated. They're ever changing.
Well, if you were the emperor for a day over gymnastics, what would be the fix? What would you do?
Back to the 10.0 for me.
Absolutely. I would go back to the 10.0, and I would make sure that state-of-the-art, best in the world gymnast has the opportunity to reach that pinnacle. Why should the best gymnast in the world be deducted 2 points on an exercise? It's crazy.
I think people want to see that, right? They want to know that perfection, a perfect 10, is, while elusive, still attainable.
Yeah. And even if they didn't go back to a 10 overall, oh boy.
Really low on that handstand. You see her hit her feet on the ground. Once again, just really got back on track there, but big struggle at the beginning.
This is her best event. Got to set up for the dismount here. Pirouette gets some speed on the Giants to get that double layout around to her feet.
All right, Zoe Miller on the bars, scores on the way. We step aside and back for more in a moment. Minnesota's Elle Miller is in 4th place after the first rotation, and now coming up on balance beam, where she was 8th at this event last year. Also won the beam a few years ago at the Junior Olympic National Championships.
Comes from a very accomplished gym. Starts with a very nice tuck front. Olympian Grace McCollum, silver medalist from Tokyo, a former club mate.
It's the same skill that she started her routine with, that mountain that you mentioned, but it's just a little bit off.
Notice she took a deep breath before she got back on the beam, kind of settled herself.
Want to get back on track here. Very difficult combination and hangs on. Gorgeous side aerial to a back layout step out. Just looks like she's doubting herself to me, not as confident, you know, and every time you doubt yourself on beam, if it's coming after a movement, it's very easy to have a little shake, a little bobble.
You hear the 2 dings, so overtime, so that'll be another deduction, and tough routine for her there.
So from Elle Miller on the beam to Zoe Miller's score on the bars from earlier, 13.1. And when we come back, a conversation with Olympic silver medalist Michaela Skinner. FlipNow.tv to watch live streaming of USA Gymnastics 2022 events and get exclusive access to decades of archived content. Halfway through it in Frisco, Texas, the 2022 Winter Cup. 2 rotations down, 2 left to go, and it's Connor McClain with the lead here at the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. And once again, Steve, Nastia, and Tim, joined by the Olympic silver medalist, Michaela Skinner. We've got the full deep bench here, 4 across. And Michaela, a lot to get to. Of course, we'll jump back to the Olympics in a moment, but let's catch up on what's been going on with you most recently, including training for American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, some big stuff going on. I can't believe it. You know, just following in Nastia's footsteps here. But
I'll give you some pointers.
Yeah, I need it. I need it. Haven't been working out, so it's been rough. But yeah, just a lot of fun things. I've come out with a leotard line, training for American Ninja Warrior. My husband and I will be doing the couples edition, and I just found out I think it will be airing April 13th.
Amazing.
So be going, and you know, it's going to happen really fast, so scared, but ready. And then finishing school at the University of Utah, so finishing my last year and, you know, kind of just retiring from the gymnastics life. So it's cool being able to sit back in the stands, doing some MC stuff here at the meet, and just getting all these experiences and getting my feet wet a little bit.
So speaking about being at a competition, let's kind of go back to the Olympics and Tokyo, and it was kind of a little bit of a whirlwind for you. You thought you were done with the competition, and then all of a sudden get a text or a call, and then you find yourself with an Olympic medal standing there on the podium. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the main goal was just to make the Olympic team for me, and I didn't know whether I would be competing individually or not, or on the team, and then I got the individual spot, and I was really hoping to place for, you know, floor and vault and have the opportunity to maybe go in, and I didn't. So, you know, I thought I was going home, got to step in for Simone, crazy story, and all of a sudden, before you know it, I'm with a silver medal around my neck up on podium, and it was funny because Simone was like, "You weren't even crying." And I was like, "I'm just tired of crying and shedding tears." I was just so happy. And so definitely rewarding, and just was so grateful to be up there one last time.
Well, a very different experience than 2016 in Rio, where you were oh so close to making that team. A lot of people, I think, including yourself, thought you should have been on that team. Contrast the feelings you had there in Rio, sitting on the sidelines as an alternate, to what just happened to you in Tokyo.
Yeah, I mean, being an alternate, super hard, and you know, a lot of people that haven't been in that position or had that experience don't really know what it's like. And so I just remember sitting in the stands, just having that burning desire, like, I want to be out there. Like, I was so close. So being able to finally make that Olympic team and knowing that all that hard work paid off was just incredible. I mean, the feelings, the emotions, there's nothing like being out there on that Olympic podium, and I'm sure you know all the emotions you get and the rush, and just knowing that, you know, I'm an Olympian, it's real, it happened. So,
and an Olympian forever.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What a journey. Awesome.
Thank you.
And Michaela, before we let you go, what's harder, the Olympic vault or the salmon ladder and the warped wall in American Ninja Warrior?
Okay, definitely the warp wall. I'm too small. I'm too small. I can't run up it, but lots of work ahead.
All right, thanks for joining us
Awesome,
as we
thank you.
continue from the Winter Cup. 2 rotations left to go, and Connor McClain in first place here in Frisco, Texas. Today it's the Winter Cup in the suburbs of Dallas. This is Lauren Little of North Carolina on the vault.
That was a great Yurchenko full right there, so not as difficult as the other vaults that we have seen earlier in the competition, but great form. Sure, working on a little bit of an upgraded vault.
So you take your difficulty score, which can be significant, and you add in the 10-0 potential execution score. You add them up together, you get your total score. So this vault has a maximum score of a 14.2. Once again, all of the vaults that we're seeing today have been devalued from the Tokyo Olympic Games to now by 4/10.
How much do these athletes think about the scoring as they're out there performing? Do they do the calculations in their head? Do they try to just focus on execution? How much is going on upstairs?
You know, I think for the most part, they really aren't doing too much calculating, but it depends on the athlete that you ask. For myself, I actually was constantly calculating, doing all of the math, and especially because, you know, there were so many times, more so on the uneven bars and the balance beam, that you're changing your routines, and so that difficulty score is always changing.
MJ
you don't do the
Frazier.
same routine.
Having a great meet so far. Potential big vault. Very nicely done. Big vault, lots of height. Good distance on the vault as well, which indicates a lot of power. Longtime coach of parkettes, Donna Strauss right there. So we just saw a full twisting Yurchenko. And remember, every half turn you add, so there's another 4/10 and there's another 4/10. So this vault has a maximum number of a 15.0. She took a big step. It was definitely a 3/10 step. Going to really want a big score here because she goes to uneven bars, and she's great everywhere, but it's not really her best event. So if she gets a little bit of a cushion, as I'm sure she will with vaulting.
13.750.
And I think they're probably disappointed with that 8.75. You know, she took not just one big step, but you know, if she could have limited it to just one, it would have been more typical for her.
Sydney Barros, the Georgia native, is coming up next on the balance beam, but waiting for the previous score to come in before she commences with her routine. Now to Monastia, we're at the midway point. Take the temperature of this meet so far. What stood out to you?
Well, you know, I think what is really great is just being able to see this whole entire new generation of young athletes, because as you mentioned, Tim, at the top of the show, after the Olympic Games, it's tough. It's tough to kind of come in here and for some of these athletes to try to be leaders of the team, but I think MJ, for me, has stood out. It's great to see Connor back out on the competition floor, looking a lot more confident.
Also Sky Blakely having a great day. Caitlin John, who we haven't seen yet, also doing a very good job. Really nice. That is so complicated. We've seen that earlier today also, but
Most likely was trying to connect these two leap elements. It's not necessarily a deduction for not connecting, but she will lose some bonus there, so her difficulty score will be affected.
Dismount here. Pretty good. 2 back handsprings into a double pike.
Now, Sydney Barros just turned 17 years of age 5 days ago, committed to UCLA. So Barros going to be a Bruin, and we'll get her scores at the Winter Cup coming up next. Connor McLean, the leader after the second rotation, and she will be on bars for her 3rd event of the day. And she is a junior silver medalist from the U.S. Junior Championships just a few years ago.
So you're looking for perfect handstand positions. It's exactly what the judges are told to focus in on. Also big flight when you do release skills. Great handstand there.
Beautiful right there as well.
Excellent. Big release coming up. Oh no.
Tries to fight and save it right here, but wow.
Yeah, wow is right.
Wow. And you know, that is something that every coach, but specifically her coach, my dad, always teaches. No matter what, do not jump off the bar. And again, not as difficult of a dismount that she is capable of doing, but what a great fight. You know, a lot of athletes would, and that's going to be a lot of deduction, right? She bent her knees a lot, a few short handstands, but that is exactly the kind of mental toughness that you want to keep fighting until the absolute very end.
Yeah, that was impressive. I thought she was going to have a rough time. Let's take a look. Really nice handstands off the top, though, like we said. Perfect. Look at that. That's as perfect as it can be. And then this one, perfect as well.
So it kind of started right here. She just didn't quite get over the bar on the handstand. She was supposed to end on the other side, so knees bent obviously right there, but little low. And this is what I was so impressed on, being able to still do that extremely difficult connection after being so short on that handstand.
Yeah, and she did it. She did a half turn immediately into the release. Didn't do an extra giant to kind of calm herself down, settle herself, but she knew what she was doing because it turned out great.
Sometimes it's not just about the elegance, it's about the fight to get there. Sydney Barros, meantime, from over on the balance beam, a 13.1.
Come on, Levi.
And awaiting the score on the uneven bars for Connor McLean as she continues to pace this field, looking for a signature victory here today at this Winter Cup, where she was the vault bronze medalist last year, but trying to take a big step up here 1 year later. After everything that she went through last year, personal setbacks, the injuries, the form that was up and down and kind of all over the place, trying to recalibrate for this new season and get it off to a flying start here today in Frisco, Texas.
I asked her what her best quality was, and she said gymnastics or anything, and I said, well, give me both. And the first thing she wanted to say is, I always look out for others. Really important. I was taught that by my parents, my grandmother. Of course, once again, losing both her father and grandmother recently.
And a 12.450 on the bars for McLean.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, the execution is something that, you know, she really excels on. But right there, that 7.0 is because of all those short handstands, the bent knees, and that was pretty much expected after a routine like that. But good fight.
Ashley Sullivan, top 5, as she heads into rotation number 3.
Says that her uneven bars, probably her weakest event, but working very hard to kind of catch up with the pack.
A little close on that release move, but.
And once again, if we say something like that, little close, it's a deduction.
Not only is it a deduction, dismount, double layout.
Oh, I thought she had that.
Yeah, just needed a little more patience there. But not only is it a deduction, but it's also a little challenging to kind of keep going on to the next skill. Just because it kind of breaks the rhythm a little bit. Lots of new skills here for a lot of these athletes, trying them out.
Very happy that she is healthier physically at this point in time. She had recently a stress fracture on L5, lower back. She said it is absolutely fine now.
And here's that release move that you said she was just a little bit close on. So take a look at her arms when she catches. Very bent right there, almost clips her feet. Doesn't sound like or look like she did, but that would have been a deduction.
Nice double laid out somersault. She just kind of moved too quickly. Could have stayed down a little bit longer.
Needed to bend her knees.
Yes, exactly.
Add more and
Yeah.
have just a second more of patience.
Well, she was 6th on this event in the junior division last year before missing the rest of the year with an injury. Even though she's still in her early teen years, says that she's targeted becoming an aerospace engineer one day. And I know that gymnastics is not rocket science, but I guess it helps to have those ambitions to also do well in the sport, huh?
There you go. Very, very cool. I ask everybody, what's your best quality in gymnastics? What's your biggest challenge? And best quality I got the first time ever yesterday out of anyone. She says, well, I'm pretty dynamic. And I said, that was awesome.
Very assertive.
12.6 on the bars for Ashley. And now Sky Blakely in 3rd place after the second rotation, but well in the mix for a win here today in Texas.
Yeah, she was only 0.2 of a point behind Connor McClain. And we look at beautiful work, though.
Great handstand right there. Big release.
Oh.
Wow.
And that's how you want to do it, though. You want to be far from the bar. It gives you more flight.
It gives you more flight, but it also gives you and your coach sometimes.
Yes. Heart tremors.
Yep. A little short on that last handstand, just a double back there. Capable of doing more as well. You know she's probably thinking about that release move when you're that far out. Sometimes we say you catch it with only your fingertips. So here's that release move. Take a look at how stretched out she is and has to really reach for the bar.
Completely extended, though. And it makes that skill even flightier.
Which sometimes isn't always a great thing. More enjoyable to watch, perhaps, but here's that dismount that we said, just a double back flip, capable of adding full twist in there, but again, it's this competition is a little bit about just kind of getting your feet wet, getting back out there. Last year and really 2 years, these athletes haven't really competed as much as they typically would.
Poised to join her sister Sloan at the University of Florida, where Sloan is having a successful freshman season for the Gators and their gymnastics program.
Yeah, she said, this is my first big meet back. I'm going to try to not put too much pressure on myself. Just get back out there and have some fun. She also told me what's most critical for her in her run-up for Paris in 2024 was to be healthy both physically and mentally. She told me 2 times a month she goes and meets with a sports psychologist that is sponsored through USA Gymnastics. She said it's been very helpful thus far.
Yes, you know, I've always believed as physically challenging and demanding as the sport of gymnastics is, it's even just as much mentally challenging, demanding. Got to train both the mind and the body.
Here's Addison Fada, the Pennsylvania native who Trains at the gym owned by her parents, who are also her coaches.
Oh boy, a little bit of a problem there. Kind of caught her foot. Had to bail out on that wolf turn.
Just didn't quite have control on that landing there.
All right, Addison Feda, who was 7th in the all-around here last year, just outside the top 10 at the Olympic trials as well. And Sky Blakely, meanwhile, 13.150, her score from earlier on the bars. That's 3 rotations down, 1 more now left to go from here in Texas. On our way to the final rotation in Frisco, Texas. MJ Frazier has the lead following the first 3 rotations, but multiple athletes still with a shot at bringing home the title here today at the Winter Cup. Once again, Steve Schlanger with Nastia Liukin and Tim Daggett. And, well, guys, we're coming down the home stretch here. Broad brush it for me in terms of who has stood out the most. And in particular, let's start with MJ Frazier and your thoughts on our current leader, Tim.
Yeah, no, she has looked fantastic all throughout the competition. Has one big test in her last event on the uneven bars, but she has looked so confident, completely unrattled and ready to be here. She might be in the best physical condition of any athlete that is on the floor today.
Yeah, and I'd have to agree with you there. And also moving on to their final event on the balance beam, Sky and Connor, you know, they both have really come out here not quite doing their highest level of difficulty, but just being able to get back out here on the competition floor at the beginning of a new season. I don't know. I think they've have some good stuff ahead of them this year.
All right. Well, it should be exciting here as a few different athletes are gunning for the victory in the final rotation. Coming up next. And we are taking aim at the end game here at the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, Texas. Final rotation commencing here at this Winter Cup. Caitlin Jong, the Texas native, in 4th place after the first 3 rotations. She's next on the balance beam and beginning this season as the reigning U.S. Gymnastics Junior All-Around Champion.
And I'll tell you what, if you look at the Olympic Games, right after they're over, you look to the junior program typically, and you look at who took 1st and 2nd, and they are typically always in the mix, especially with there being only 3 years instead of 4 years. Historically, so many athletes have made that jump. She's only 15 years old. You have to turn 16 the year of the championships, so she is an age-eligible senior at this point in time. Big gymnastics, though. Watch this right here. Oh, holds on to that back with a full.
And you said it was Kind of nerve-wracking to start on the balance beam, but also nerve-wracking to end on the balance beam, especially when you've had great competition. Wow, beautiful series right there. A lot of athletes normally add a back handspring in front of that to give them a little bit more power, but wasn't necessary there.
She told me yesterday, everyone's so much older than me. It's so intimidating. I said, so what are you going to do about it? She said, I'll just focus on my gymnastics.
That's all you can do. Control your controllables. Here's the dismount right here. Big step back, but that was a great routine for her. Very difficult.
And her coach right there, Marnie Futch, she says that she is a very even athlete. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. I agree. Awesome. Very confident routine.
So here's that wolf turn at the very beginning of the routine. So Tim, as you mentioned, normally we'd see that a few times in a routine, not allowed anymore, but here's that very difficult backflip with a full twist. A little bit off, but was able to fight through it.
And this is just awesome. Right from a stand, back layout, step out, into a layout. Like you said, Nastia, much more difficult to do that without the skill before it.
And double pike dismount, so judges are looking for chest, shoulders up on the landing, just a tiny bit low. And of course that step back, but she's happy to have that one under her belt.
Also competed at the Junior Pan Am Games in Colombia last year, where she won the gold medal in the all-around, took silver on the balance beam, where we just saw her a moment ago.
She told me that her favorite thing about gymnastics is it's fun, and I said, so what does that mean? And she says, well, I like the challenges I face, and I like to overcome them.
All right. MJ Frazier, leader going into the final rotation. Her last event of the day, looking to make the closing statement here on the bars.
Big release. Oh, my goodness. Oh. And that. I can pretty much guarantee you she's never had a fall like that in her life. And, you know, earlier in the show we talked about being too close to the bar, and this is a perfect example. And because of that, she doesn't have anywhere near enough swing to complete that back laid out somersault, which is called a pack salto. Really added a lot of difficulty on bars. Double layout.
Oh, that was a great recovery. Good second half of the routine after, as you mentioned, Tim probably has never had a fall like that.
That did not look pretty.
Yeah, sometimes you just come off an apparatus, but that was the type of fall that can really rattle you. But she bounced back nicely. Caitlin Zhang, a score of 13.050 on the beam, and the score from the bars after this. MJ Frazier a moment ago on the bars with a scary fall. Her score 12.200 after having to get back up there and finish her routine. And that has opened the door for Connor McLean. Her final event is the balance beam. Needs better than a 13.45 for the lead, and she's a two-time U.S. junior champion on the beam as well.
Only one gymnast thus far, MJ Frazier, has been able to reach that mark, though. But if there's someone else that can do it, it's this young lady right here. She's just special on this event.
She really is.
Lots of difficulty. Starts right here. Oh,
gorgeous.
That was fantastic. Not done, though.
Big tumbling pass right here.
Watch this rebound. Oh, my goodness. That was spectacular. Just
as if she is just tumbling on the floor exercise.
has been so dynamic on this event for so long. Just kind of like a savant here. Just really tremendous. Great body lines, but also just really tough acrobatic elements.
Wow, stunning. Here we go, just the dismount left right here. 2 back handsprings, double pike.
Oh boy.
There you go, Connor.
Yes. I can't imagine when I look at, you know, other routines. Like I said, MJ Frazier had a 13.7 on beam. That should surpass that. That was absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. And you know what? Regardless of surpassing or not, the score that she gets here, that routine will do wonders for her confidence moving towards every other competition the rest of the season.
Front to back, simply superb. And you could see as she hit all of her marks throughout that routine, her confidence was growing, it was swelling. And then she put the punctuation mark on it with that dismount.
That was absolutely gorgeous right from the beginning. Take a look at this. Backflip with a full twist, just absolute perfection.
So this routine right here, this plays in any competition. World Championships, look at the rebound on this and the height and landing. This is a medal-worthy routine right
Just
there.
Absolutely picture perfect. Here's that dismount, 2 back handsprings into a double pike. Shoulders up, just a tiny hop. She has a lot to be proud of today.
With everything that she has gone through, both physically, emotionally.
Connor, your dad is proud of you.
Again, she needed better than a 13.450 to take the lead.
I like to get punched whatsoever, so
I'd be very surprised if she doesn't get this. Remember, though, the judges are stingy. But
okay. I like put my hands down.
it was excellent.
You still did good.
Highest beam score so far today, MJ Frazier, 13.7. The next highest, a 13.4. And then it drops to 13.1. So yeah, it's tight on beam.
But you know, not only was that routine extremely difficult, but the execution. I mean, if that doesn't score at least above a 9.0, then to be completely honest, I have no idea
Yes.
what would.
I agree with you.
I was like telling myself, oh my God.
Think of how far she's come. She fell off the beam twice during the first day of World Championship selection camp back in October. Had to get a discretionary place on the world's team. Now comes back here a few months later with a score of 14.600 in her final event of the day.
Oh,
Wow. But look at that execution score, an 8.5. Tim, I mean,
I know. We're saying it's too strict. I mean, look,
where
we just
did you
watched.
find a point and a half deduction in that routine? Please tell me.
But that was just about 1 point better than anybody else has done today.
Ashley Sullivan, top 5, trying to solidify her spot here on her final event of the day. As we come down to the final routines of this Winter Cup.
Watch this mount right here. She'll dive backwards. Seen more athletes do it recently, but pretty unique compared to the classic just mount. Gorgeous Arabian. Back with a half. Here's her series right here.
Good fight. I said this earlier, but she told me that Being able to calm herself down is one of her things that she's really focusing on. Very nice element right there.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites in a no-D.
Regardless of the outcome for this young lady, this is really a tremendous first major senior outing with stellar success.
Strong way to finish.
Awesome. Tough finishing on the balance beam, as I said, especially when you've had a great competition. You just want to end it with a cherry on top.
Nats, you remember getting that hug in Beijing, China with your dad? I can still see it.
Kind of brings me back, seeing him on the competition floor.
The family atmosphere with the coaches, the teammates, all elevates the experience, doesn't it?
And right from the beginning, look at the skill right here. So she dives backwards onto the beam. 3 elements in a row. Back handspring, back layout, back layout. One of my favorite tumbling passes there.
And the dismount in combination, 2 back handsprings, double pike, somersault. What a day, what a competition. Ashley Sullivan, remember that name.
Oh, that's me.
And apparently there is an inquiry on MJ Frazier's score, so a delay in getting the final numbers here.
Bro, why am I so aggressive? Like, bro, you're on the beam. You can chill. Okay.
That was good.
Wow, that's kind of rude. I'm sorry.
And remember, it was MJ Frazier who struggles on the bars in her final event that really created the opening for Connor McClain and that sensational beam routine that could deliver her the victory here as Ashley Sullivan's score comes in, but the inquiry ongoing over here for Frazier.
And you know that she did that major release, was very close to the bar, remember, and then did what's called a pack salto to the low bar. But I don't think that they're going to call it a pack salto. They're going to take away both the element and then the connection that she would get for it.
Sky Blakely has been in the running for the lead all day. Final routine needs the 14-1 on the balance beam.
And she is phenomenal on this event. Beautiful triple turn. Starts with a big skill right here. Just like Connor, just a little bit off.
This, oh, baby, really difficult. You see top gymnasts in the world doing typically one of those major acrobatic combinations or major skills. She does 2 of them.
Just seems like she's holding back just a little bit.
So
Kind of just means, you know, a little nervous. Typically does a little bit bigger splits in all of her dance elements, and
yeah,
you can just tell every little skill, just a tiny bobble or a little off, but just the dismount.
nice double back. Not going to reach that stratospheric 14.6 that we saw from Connor McClain, I would say, but a very solid routine. They both go to the gym called Woga But there are two different facilities, so they actually don't train in the same gym.
They don't, but same team, and good day for Woga. Right in their backyard.
Absolutely.
And just a few miles away.
Caitlin Zhang also trains at Metroplex, which is, she told me she lives 15 minutes from here.
Kind of nice to be able to sleep in your own bed at a competition.
And you're traveling around the country and eventually around the world. And you appreciate those small comforts along the road. And this event is a qualifier for some other international events later this season. The top gymnasts will get a spot and will compete internationally for the U.S. later on in the year.
Very interesting mount. Love seeing this kind of stuff. It's, you know, it doesn't really get you a lot of points, and they should figure out a way to do something like that. So the choreography.
But this one does right here. Not only is it unique, it is so difficult, and we don't really see that very often for a reason.
Yeah, that is tough stuff.
But you know, Tim, I agree with you 100% on, you know, doing elements that aren't necessarily of high value right there, but here's the dismount. So double back flip. Great chest up, just that step, but there's just something about it that makes it unique. It stands out, even if it doesn't add a lot to the difficulty score. I always love seeing something like that.
A long, long time ago, they used to have a part of gymnastics. You had to do something original, and they're kind of bringing that back on the women's side. It's a little confusing to know how to explain it, however.
All right, so the score on the beam for Blakely, 13.5, as you get the team photo. Got to make the meet Insta official here, right?
Team photo and the leotards that Connor designed. I would say she should probably design a few more this year.
So it looks like Connor McClain is going to lock down the victory here today. Sienna Alipio, though, still with her final rotation. And last performance of the day coming up here.
Very tricky mount. Doing that round off onto the board, and then beautiful back layout step out. Really difficult stuff right there. We've seen side aerial to back layout step out, but that's the first time we've seen two in a row. Oh, geez.
That skill, if you're just a little bit off, it is so hard to fight for it, and she did. She certainly didn't just give up on that. Shoulders were just a little too in front there.
As we've said throughout the broadcast, lots of different changes to the rules. Something that has not changed. You fall from the apparatus, it's an automatic 1-point deduction.
Gainer off of the beam, and unfortunate ending to her competition.
Silver medalist on the balance beam from the U.S. Gymnastics Championships from 3 years ago. Finishing off her day here at the Winter Cup.
Beautiful mount and very, very risky. She'll do the round off onto the board, and from the board go up to the balance beam, lay out, step out, and somehow find that 4-inch material that they call a balance beam.
Here's that wolf turn. So you see she's just kind of off, and she tried to save it, but her shoulders and chest just way too much in front of her.
So the results are in, and the winner is Connor McClain, as she endures a tumultuous season a year ago, but what a bounce back here early in 2022 to get the victory at the Winter Cup.
Yeah, and let's think back to earlier on in the competition. She probably didn't even do half of her difficulty, ended her first event, that floor exercise routine, with just a very simple layout at the end.
What does that mean? Okay, well,
Capable of so much more. Very, very bright future. So proud of all of these young ladies here today.
And for Connor McClain, she was first on a balance beam at the age of 2. Now here she is a decade and a half later. It's the event that helps deliver her this signature win today, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, running up to Tokyo Olympic Games, it was thought that she could contend to even make that team. But really, from the beginning, she has always said, her mom has always said, that we're gunning for 2024 Paris. And look out, Paris, because I think she's coming.
All right, so a huge day for Connor McClain. And that'll close things out for us from here at the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, Texas. Coming up next, it's round 3 of the Honda Classic from down in Florida. And Paris is on the clock. The road has begun to the next Olympic Games in 2024 in the French capital. And now for Nastia Liukin and Tim Daggett, I'm Steve Schlanger. Thanks for joining us, everyone, as we say so long from the Winter Cup in Frisco, Texas.